Well, here we go again. Dave Burns at Copper Gardens. We're going to take a look at, oh my God. I'm sorry, you got to look at me for a second. And if that doesn't make you sick, well, we'll go forward here. We're looking at the gates we've been working on for, God, it seems like months now. And I think it is months because it's the project, never mind. It's got a lot of things that have held it up, including some of my own judgment calls that some were correct and some were less than correct. Here's what we're going to talk about today. The basic layout of the gates are done. The textured panels are upholstered, and I'm calling it that because that's literally what it feels like as you're wrapping and making all these corners fit. I'll explain these ancillary bars here in a minute. But here's another one. I hope the lighting is adequate. Gates all done except for the pickets. And on the first gate, the outgoing passage gate, driveway gate, I put in the pickets and then I did the wrap. That's very complex. And it was going to be double complex, maybe triple complex, to do a double wrap on pickets already in place. The nice thing about doing it that way is that the pickets would have a frame to go to, a sort of a fixed number, albeit it varied with each picket. It got a little longer because of or shorter, depending on which direction you're going, depending on the slope of the top of the gate. Now that's greatly enhanced. The complication is increased. I'm using this size picket. It's a 3/4 inch plumbing tube, but 3/4 inch means interior diameter, not exterior. It's just the way plumbing works. And note here, if the camera will pick it up, I hope it does, I've got the complexity of putting a flat surface or a shaped surface. I can do a typical cut with a hole saw and make a rounded cut. But each and every single one of them is going to be different because, well, here you go. Here's a close-up. Let me see how this looks on the video. I think this will work out. Yeah, pretty good. You can see the variation in the texturing. Well, imagine trying to make a nice, neat brazing connection right there. In fact, part of my deal will be to use my amazing, incredible talent. Thank you very much. You can hold the applause till after the show. To fill in some of these gaps with my 0% silver brazing rod. But you don't want to do that you can't fill in 1/4 inch gaps. You can fill in some really small gaps, 1/8 inch and smaller, but ideally you would have no gap. That's probably not going to happen very often here. I'll take a grinder and relieve whatever portion I need to get this to fit, and then I go to the other end and I try to do the same thing. And how do you index it? Typically on an ordinary cut where you're just going to go to 2 tubes, rounded or square tubes, you make your cut, you index it, you make the other cut on the other end, everything lines up. Here we don't have anything to index to because we're going to cut the first one to an oddball shape like this, and then the other one is going to have to be beat, hammered, and swedged, and a couple of other nasty, I'll have to be swearing a lot until we get them to line up. Anyway, this is not to complain, it's just to point out the complexity of this kind of a build. It's an interesting build. I want anybody who views this sort of thing that I do, and my wonderful client, who I will reveal at the end of the build in this on my last video, probably when we're installing, I'll reveal my client and explain who that is, and that'll make a lot more sense at the time. So at any rate, this is a kind of a goes nowhere video. I'm not sure what else I can tell you that's interesting because I'm not physically doing anything right now, but just imagine trying to, for those of you that do this kind of work. Now, another little interesting point is the reason these bars are here is to try to find the center line so that my spacing on the pickets works out that I have equal spacing on both ends. The only way to do it that looks correct is to have those be the same. It almost doesn't matter what they are, but you want them to be the same. And to try to find center on a thing that has a little curve out here and a little whoop-de-doo all the way along, and center is more a matter of looks than it is a matter of absolute measurements. So once I measured and I marked on the face of both sides, top and bottom, then I did this sort of a thing where I took a straight edge and lined it up visually with this panel, and then I measured to a center point. Well, guess what? It was a different number. It came out, in fact, I doubt you can see it here, but it came out almost a ½ inch difference. Well, I've got to go with visual, because if I go purely with measurements and then the gate's up and in place and everything looks canted a degree or two, that'll just be stupid. So I'm going with visual, and I don't know if I'll have to modify that or fudge. If I fudged an 1/16 of an inch here and there with a picket, that won't be particularly noticeable. So anyway, enough, I guess. I like to keep my videos short. This is rambling on a little bit. So I'm just trying to give viewers and the owner for this project an update on where we stand, and that's it. So thanks for taking the time to look at us. We'll update you another time, probably in about a week or two.